So there I am. I'm 16 years old. I'm pinned up against the wall from the sonic blast that's coming at me. And I'm wondering, what just happened? I've got the story coming up next.
Geek Stories!
So sad. I just found out on March 3rd, 2021, one of the greatest big band drummers I've seen passed away. His name was Duffy Jackson, thus the glasses. When I was 16 years old, I was asked by an upperclassman at a different school than I was going to if I wanted to get tickets to go see the Basie Band. And I'm like, yeah, how much? Well, it's a motor coach ride with a high school jazz band up there and back in the concert. And I think it was $15 or $17 or something like that. Of course, at the time I thought that was a princely sum, but it seemed like a really worthwhile deal. The kid, my friend, Brent, told me, I'll have to check with the band director to make sure it's okay. The band director didn't know me from Adam, and I was yet to enter his high school and his program and become very close friends, even to this day. But he allowed it, and I got my ticket, and so I hopped on the Chippewa Trails bus up to Telemark Lodge in Cable, Wisconsin. The Basie Band was there to play a show. It was around April of 1980. Now, when I heard about this opportunity, I was so pumped. I was so excited because I'm like, the Basie Band, I love the Basie Band. I'd heard them play on TV. I'd heard recordings. I was like, that's an awesome band. Just what a cool thing, you know? And Butch Miles. I can't wait to see my hero, my idol, Butch Miles. I had a few. Ed Shaughnessy, Buddy Rich, Butch Miles. They were all on my list for my favorite drummers, especially the big band and all the excitement and the posing and all the greatness and everything. So we got up to the gig after about an hour and a half drive, and we got there, and we got there a little bit late, and it was in a typical ballroom type hall with the band set up on one end and us at the other end. So when we entered the ballroom, the band was set up right there on the right. We went all the way back. The place was packed. It was already full. So our seats were standing room only. I was up against the back wall. The band came out and they kicked off a tune. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was Magic Flea or Whirly Bird or something like that. But it was a really up-tempo song. And they came out and they hit it. Bang! And I'm like, who's the drummer, man? That's not Butch Miles. It's some big dude, you know, with these funny glasses on. And I'm like, oh man, that's a drag. That's kind of disappointing. But they kicked off this tune and they're like playing. The sticks come up and they twirl, and the crash cymbals way up over his heads. Bam, bam. It was a Tama drum set in silver satin. I remember that. 5-piece kit, 2 toms on the bass drum. And actually might have had 2 floor toms, I think, to come to think of it. But he had his crash cymbals way up high, kind of on these boom stands that were tilted in a little bit, and then the cymbals were on top of that. And he came out and he just, bam, and the sticks come twirling, and it was just a tempo I'd never heard. I couldn't believe how fast they were playing. And I'm listening to this and I'm hearing the of the hi-hat, and I'm like, man, you know, I know that's supposed to be 2 and 4, but I think it's 1 and 3. Was it? cha 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 cha. But it was 2 and 4. Welcome, Mr. Ninth Grader, to figuring out what big band and swing drumming is all about and where the 2 and 4 is. Well, they came out and they blew. And Duffy Jackson, oh my goodness, what a player. I was instantly hooked. I had a new drum hero. I'd never heard of this guy, never seen a picture of him, had no clue who he was. I was 16 years old and looking at his obituary, rest his soul. Duffy would have been about 10 years older than me, so he would have been about 26, maybe 27 at that show. They came out and they played and they smoked, and they did like they usually do at a Basie concert. They played for 45 minutes, probably an hour, and then they took a break. And on the break, some of the band, and I was kind of an outsider because I was an underclassman still in the junior high school, not even a member of any of the jazz bands at the high school. And so I just kind of hanging back and looking around. I'd been gigging for more than about a year at that point, so I was familiar with, kind of some of the scene. But some of the guys went up and were talking to the guys in the band, and I went and eavesdropped a little bit, and I think it might have been Al Gray, the great trombone player, was talking to one of the guys in the high school band who was a trombone player, and he was talking about the notes that he was using, and I specifically remember, and this shows you the level of maturity I had at the time. He said, well, I use this note, and then I use a C flat, and I'm thinking, don't you mean B natural? What did I know about music theory? That you actually have a C flat in music theory. Fortunately for me, I didn't open up my stupid big mouth at 16 years old and show him how much I knew about music. But anyway, he got some notes. Probably, I don't know, he probably got the blues scale from him or something like that. And anyway, it was a pretty amazing experience. We came home and it was super late at night, and I believe it was a weeknight thing. It might have been a Wednesday or a Thursday night. So we got back super late, and then the next morning it was school for me. I remember being so tired on that bus ride home and trying to sleep and get some shut-eye. Fast forward about 8 years. I had been playing a lot of music, playing a lot of big band, met a lot of players, played with some pretty famous people too by that time, and was carving out what I thought was going to be a pretty good career for myself. But I had exited the whole music full-time for a career type option, and I was doing repair. And I'd moved to a location in Ohio. I was repairing at a music store there, and somebody brought in a flyer and said, hey, Jim, you want to go see the Basie Band? They're going to be playing over there at Galleon High School. And I'm like, Galleon? What's in Galleon? That's like this little town. But sure enough, they were going to be playing a concert there in the school gymnasium. So I'm like, darn right I'm going to go. I had no idea who it would be. I had seen the Basie Band before Basie had died. And at that time, he was using Greg Fields on drums. I was pretty impressed with Greg. Great player, solid, wonderful swinging, hard player. That would have been in, I think, 1983 when I saw him the second time when Greg was playing. Might have been 80. Yeah, it wouldn't have been 84. I'm sure I was still in high school. So it had to have been 83, right thereabouts. Because Basie died in April of 84. I remember that specifically because I was with the College Jazz One going down to the Wichita Jazz Festival, and it came on the bus radio that was playing. Legendary band leader Count Basie dies at age whatever it was. And everybody just sat up in their seats and like, what? Oh, man. So, of course, at the Wichita Jazz Festival in 1984, everybody was doing tributes to Count Basie. And in fact, Butch Miles was there at that gig, working as a clinician with Gretsch drums by that time. He had left Pearl. So, I went to the concert to see the big band play, and I had no idea who would be playing. At that time, Frank Foster was running the band. I was later to find out. But I get to the gymnasium, and sure enough, there he is, Mr. Glasses, Duffy Jackson, playing drums. And I'm like, yes, this is so cool. And here they come out, and they're just burning, they're smoking. He plays so well. His solos, his fills were so, I would call them from the ground up. Like the bass. That's how he played. He wasn't snare drum top oriented. He was more of a. That's the way he played. He just had this really gutsy. Toms tuned a little bit tighter, but he used deeper toms too. So they had this big, kind of a boomy sound, but they weren't tuned low. They were tuned up in a medium to higher range. And he played great. And so, again, just as the Basie Band would do, they took their break. And I'm like, I'm going to go talk to Duffy Jackson and tell him what an inspiration he's been to me in my career and all the playing that I had done. And that I'll tell him the story when I saw him when I was 16 years old. So I see Duffy. They took a break. And it's not like the band just disappeared into the locker room or something like that. But he was kind of hanging out backstage. And he had this 1 gallon milk jug full of water. And he was sweating. If you've ever seen videos of him, he sweated profusely. And he would just be like sweating like a pig, man. And he was chugging down that gallon of water. And I went up to him and I said, Duffy, man, I love your playing. Oh, yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks. And I said, I saw you when I was 16 years old. He goes, oh, great. Yeah, I said, yeah, I was up at the Telemark Lodge in Cable, Wisconsin. Oh, yeah, really? Yeah, I was early on when I was in that band, early on. And he's got in one hand a gallon jug of water. And I kid you not, this is not a joke. This is not hyperbole. He's got in his other hand one of these Bismarck jelly-filled donuts, sugar-coated. He's like, yeah, great. Wow, it's good. Good. I'm glad you caught that. Thanks for coming up. He was a super nice guy. So I'm talking to him for a little while. Let him go, to take a rest and a break. And I was just thrilled to be able to see him. Well, today I found out, I don't know why it took so long, but Duffy died on March 3rd of this year. It didn't give any details of his death, but I gotta say I'm kind of bummed out about it because as a very impressionable youth and an aspiring jazz drummer, I was so impressed by his playing, and his showmanship was flawless. It was amazing. He is so energetic, so powerful, great dexterity, and he was the first drummer that I ever heard play the hi-hat tube. Stink, stink, stink. And I'm like, what is that sound? I'm hearing this clink, 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 clink. And I'm like, that is an odd sound. I never heard that. Well, forgive me. I don't remember Joe Jones doing it or Sonny Payne or whatever. I guess looking back, I remember Harold Jones playing that kind of thing. But Duffy's drum kit, and again, it was a Tama. He had a hi-hat stand with a large tube on it. And I think it just resonated and had a very ping sound to it. Of course, after I saw that, guess what I'm doing? I'm playing that upper tube on the hi-hat. So when I got into high school, and then I got in my first year into jazz too, I'm like playing, and I'm doing all the tricks that I'd learned from seeing Ed Shaughnessy, from seeing Duffy Jackson, and some of these folks. And so it immediately started showing up in my playing. And a lot of the clinicians that would come in, they would kind of like turn and look. It's like, psh, 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 to the band director. Because I was playing with a little bit of seasoning and using things that I'd heard the professionals use, rather than relying on your typical sophomore drummer kinds of things. So I think that served me well. And Duffy was the guy to thank for that. Anyway, Duffy Jackson was an iconic drummer. I know he wasn't the household name that Ed Shaughnessy and Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa and some of those guys are. But he was an unbelievable big band drummer. And if you don't know Duffy Jackson, he is the son of the legendary Chubby Jackson, the bass player who played with Woody Herman and a myriad of people in the 30s and 40s and 50s. Chubby was a fantastic showman himself and a great timekeeper, an amazing bass player. But I'm a little bummed. Duffy will be missed. I will always remember him. I'll always remember the glasses, what I would call the Chicago glasses, because I've always seen, like Harry Carey, right? Harry Carey had the big glasses, the big heavy black rims from the Chicago Cubs, the announcer. I will really miss Duffy Jackson, and just knowing that he's gone leaves me feeling a little bit sad, but I will always remember the great experience of being pinned to that wall sonically, just going, oh my word, it's not Butch Miles, but whoever this is, this guy is king. And it's just something that got added to the pot. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to my gig story and checking out my thoughts on the wonderful Duffy Jackson. Hey, if you like what I'm doing, I put out gig stories, drum covers, and brass instrument repairs. Check out some of the things that I've got posted up here and click on these links right here. It'll give you something fun to do. Take care. Thanks a lot. We'll see ya. Bye now.